Welcome back to Let's Talk Chicago Bears. How's everybody doing on this fine Monday, huh? Nobody likes Mondays. Whether you're working or not, Mondays are just not a good day. I just kidding. Excuse me. Okay, so today I'm coming on to do one of my last shows before I sign off for the season. I will be back in March once the Bears start dabbling in free agency, which I predict they're going to do kind of heavily because they only have 5 draft picks. And there are some, I was looking, there's like 50 something top rated free agents out there this season. And a lot of teams, as I mentioned before, are having problems like the Bears had last year with their cap. Their cap is too high and they can't afford a lot. So that's to our favor. Maybe we can get a couple offensive linemen. I saw several, actually more than several, good offensive linemen out there. Not a lot of them in their 20s, maybe a couple in their 20s, and a lot of them in their early 30s, so we could do that. Linemen can last longer, generally in age, like offensive linemen, because they're not running all over the field, and, their job is a little bit different. So age isn't always a huge factor with an offensive lineman, but we'll see. So regardless, I'll be back. I'm going to sign off today. It will be my last one until we start to dabble in the free agency, and then, which will probably come back mid-March, and then in the beginning of May after the draft, I'll do a show, and then I'll sign off again until real camp starts in August, and we have preseason. So, we'll go from there. So I just wanted to the Bears did the press conference today. So I kind of wanted to touch base with everybody on that. I listened to it. Of course they've said all the right things, but who doesn't when they first come onto a team? So, but I liked some of the things I heard and body language and this and that. So they did introduce, Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus as our GM and head coach, which is a really good thing. And then over the weekend, the Bears named Luke Getsy as our OC, and Luke came from the Packers. I don't want anything to do with the Packers. I can't stand the Packers, but I'm willing to let this guy come over and be an offensive coordinator if he turns the team around. Excuse me. My allergies have been really bad this weekend. Had a lot of wind last week, and when it gets windy out here, it stirs everything up. It's just because it's so dry here, in Vegas, baby. So our OC, we got him, and then they also, over the weekend, so this happened, these two things, they hired an assistant GM, and his name is Ian Cunningham. And the Bears have not had an assistant GM for a very, very, very long time. So this is interesting. He has he has his experience in the NFL up in the ranks is 14 years. He's been with the Eagles. He won a Super Bowl in 2007. He was with them in 2017. And he was with the Ravens when they won a Super Bowl in 2012. And the reason, Ryan Poles said, the reason I hired an assistant GM because GMs get pulled in many different directions, especially when you got free agency and the draft coming up. So he goes, I wanted to have a right-hand man. So when I'm being pulled all over, he can help with the evaluation process of, free agencies, the current players on the team, and the draft. So, and they've known each other a long, long time. And he said they have a great chemistry. So I'm like, good. The more help we can get, the better, right? Because we need it. So really, the only other big decision, there's other coaches they're going to hire, but as far as we're concerned and is the defensive coordinator. That has not happened yet. So that'll be interesting to see as that. But so let's hope that Luke get SD, I don't know. You know me, Guesty, as our offensive coordinator is the real deal because we really need a good guy that can mentor Justin Fields, okay? And we all know that, right? So, listening to Matt's plans for the players, his off-season plan is what he's going to do is he's going to give all his players that obviously they feel is going to be on the team next year, and especially Justin, 3 things to concentrate and improve on until they meet live in April. So they're going to start watching their films. Well, they probably have already been doing it, and then they're going to tell these players, this is what I want you to work on, and then we'll see you live in minicamp in April, and then we'll go over those. So he's basically giving them homework, and I think it's awesome. And Justin Fields was at that press conference, by the way, and I think it's kind of cool because he lives in Georgia, and he said, I'm on my way home to Georgia after this. So he stuck around to see who the Bears hired, and the coach has already talked to Justin. They've had interaction, so this is a good thing. And it's said that Luke, the offensive coordinator, could be a really good mentor to Justin Fields, and that's exactly what we need. Something else that was interesting that Matt said at the press conference is he's got a word, and basically the word is hits, but HITS, but he has a saying for each one of them. So H, he says, I want them hitting hard out there. I want intensity. T, I want us to take away the ball and have ball security on the other side. And S, I want smart play, no penalties. He's like, we have got to work on that. And he said his goal is to be in the top 5 next season with the fewest penalties. And you know how I hate penalties. It ruins teams. It ruins drives. It ruins momentum. It just everything. And so I really liked hearing that. And he said he's going to really, discipline is something he's really going to be enforcing. I think that's great because that Bears lack discipline. That's why they had so many penalties. He's going to challenge his players to be the best they can be. And not only is he going to challenge them to be good players, he's going to challenge them to be good men on and off the field. He's going to encourage his players to work the best and the hardest they can. He really wants to get all he can out of his players. I don't think you ever heard Nagy say that. I really don't. I really don't. And he just wants them to be the best. So he's going to give them the tools and show them the tools, and then hopefully he can mold them. But I like hearing this stuff. He goes, I'm going to encourage my players to be the best and work hard. I'm going to develop them so that they are the best, and I want them to be good on and off the field. Good men and a team. Now, I don't really know if teamwork was an issue last year. It's hard to say. A lot of players didn't say much. Matt Nagy always said they were a team. But, after Nagy's gone, now you're hearing some things that Nagy, he ghosted some of the players. He certainly did it with Mitchell. We all know that. And then it turns out Robinson said he ghosted him for weeks. And you're a head coach. You can't be doing that shit. It's your team. You got to treat them the same. It's your family, man. So, I don't know. I do believe from what Mac Eberflus was saying that he wants to work them. He wants them all to be one and hard work. He said they better have their running shoes on when they get here. Okay, I'm down with that. Nothing wrong with some hard work. If this will help turn this thing around, right on. And Matt is saying what he's planning on doing. We do right now. We run a 3-4 defense. They did the last few years, and he's going to go back to a 4-3 defense. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. And the one thing he did say at the press conference, somebody asked him, will you be calling plays? And he said, absolutely not for either offense or defense. Well, he wouldn't call offense, but defense, a lot of people are concerned that he'll really be the head coach or the defensive coordinator. He said, no. The defensive coordinator is a defensive coordinator. He calls the plays. He said, I will oversee what's going on, but I'm the head coach, so I'm going to be looking at everything. But the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator, it's their jobs, and that's what he's going to allow them to do. And hallelujah to that. We're actually going to have a real offensive coordinator calling the plays. And it will be nice to see how this all works out. So I'll be curious to see who the defensive coordinator is they're hiring. There's rumors he's bringing guys from Indy, Matt Eberflus. So I don't know. Well, there's going to be a lot, to watch in the next few months to see what happens. Obviously, Matt and Ryan have a lot of work. They said that we're going to watch a lot of film and just find ways to improve and to have schemes that'll best their players. So run schemes that your players are best at. Matt Nagy put in what he wanted. It didn't matter if it ran, you saw it with Mitchell, and I think you saw it with Fields last year. He's making them be something they're not, and this coach is not going to do it. Of course, he's got a scheme in mind, but he's also said, I have a scheme, but we also want to make sure our players are best to fit this scheme. So you also got to play to their strengths, and that's something we just did not do. So that'll be very interesting. I like that. And he just seems to be, I don't know. He is going to be, I think he's going to be a lot tougher than Matt Nagy on these guys, but they need it. We don't know who's going to be with the team next year. I told you that the Bears had 31 free agents, and a lot of them were on defense. So there's going to be a lot of changes. I mean, we know we're going to see Roquan Smith. We know we're going to see Quinn. We know, Nichols, some of the other guys. We know in the backfield, Jalen Johnson will be here. Mack, most likely, although there's rumors that they could, but he's been hurt 2 years in a row, and his contract is heavy in his favor, so it'll be really hard to trade him. If you can't get anything for him, keep him. You're not going to get a first-round draft pick, absolutely not, because he's been hurt 2 years in a row. Had he not been hurt those last 2 years, I think you'd have a chance at least of one first-round draft pick, and that I think they would have done because we need it. We don't have a first round. So, I don't know. We'll see. But I liked, of course, everybody likes when a coach comes in. I will say, though, I was trying to remember when Nagy came. Of course, that was a while ago, and I am old and pickled brain, so I can barely remember yesterday. All I do remember yesterday, because I wiped out in my kitchen yesterday morning and landed on my kneecap. And boy, did that hurt. A kneecap that has had 2 surgeries, so not good, but I'll be all right. Taking it for the team. Anyways, remembering. But I remember I didn't have a feeling when that Miggy came on, bad or good. It was just kind of like, yeah, all right. To me, from what I remember, is he was just sounded like he was saying all the right things and what you wanted to hear. Now, you could say that very, very well with Matt Eberflus, but I didn't feel that with him because he wasn't saying all the usual things. He was really talking to the team like, we're going to make you tough. We're going to get rid of these penalties. We're going to make you a winner. We're going to work with Justin, and change the culture. That's it. Culture back to winning. Okay, so that's a really big thing. And then Ryan Poles, he didn't say he had some stuff, but he looked. And me and my son were talking about it. He looked kind of nervous to me because man, he was drinking water like it was going out of style. It was pretty funny. He looked a little nervous to me, but what he was saying about the draft, which is that that's their big thing. Well, they've got the draft, but they've got free agency, and then they've got to evaluate all their players right now. So. But he said in for the draft, he really wants to get players that will fit their scheme and their culture of the Chicago Bears. And same for free agency. He wants players that fit in to the schemes and the culture. So it's very important. That's very, very, very important. So he's like, so tomorrow it starts. Probably going out to party today, have some lunch, all of them with their families, and tomorrow the work starts, and it's gonna be long, long days. Ryan Poles, his first day of work, he showed up at 6 a.m. Yeah, he says he gets there early because he gets a lot of his work done when people aren't there. So probably people start coming in around 8, I bet. So he goes, I get most of my work done in the beginning and at the end of the day, because there's not so much going on, and he can sit and think. So some long days ahead for these guys, and let's hope it works. The one thing he was asked, not in the press conference, I read this the other day, he was asked by somebody, so in 2008, when you were signed by the Bears as an undrafted free agent, did you ever, and of course it did not last, but did you ever think you would be the Chicago Bears GM at age 36? And he's like, no. He goes, I didn't know what was going to happen at that point. I wasn't, I wasn't going to make it in the NFL. And then he knew what he wanted to do was then he wanted to stay with football. So he worked his way into an front office, and worked his way up. And, did he think that he was going to be a GM? He didn't answer that question. He just said, they had just said the Bears GM. And of course he said no. But he said, but I just knew I wanted to do something. He goes, but the fact that I ended up in Chicago, to me, feels like a full circle. And maybe it was meant to be, which is always a good thing. Everyone says everything in life is meant to be. I'm not a huge believer on that. Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. Like, for instance, my husband and me getting together, I know there was a reason for it, which I saw later. I'm not going into all that story because my husband, if you haven't been watching the show the last 2 seasons, he has passed away at the age of 49, 14 years ago, and sick for 17 years out of our 28-year marriage, and very sick. And but I know we were meant to be because we both molded each other and changed, and so with not going off subject, which I am, which is not something, if you watch my show, happens frequently. Again, I'm old, and I like to talk. So that meant to be stuff, I don't know. Sometimes I'm on board, sometimes I'm not. You know what I mean? So, but in this case, there's just something about it. You know what I mean? They gave him a chance when no one wanted him. It did not work out, but the Bears still gave him a chance, and now look at them. 20-something years later, they're doing it again. So we'll see, and this was another question I read. He was asked, what do you want the Chicago Bears to have as an identity? He said, I want them to be tough, violent, and a team that finishes. I thought the violent part was funny, but I agree with him. Tough, violent, and a team that finishes. We did not finish games last year, but maybe 1 or 2, and that was it. And that was a big problem with some of those games that we should have won, and you all know I'm talking about. So he's right. I like it. I like the finishing part. So, and he also says, I want a team that can overcome adversity. And he said, and that is huge in making a team that brings them together and the way they play. So he says adversity is huge to overcome because there is so much of it. But if you stick together and just play together and stick together as men, it will work out. And he said, and as for Justin's, they're going to bring, well, him, the coaches, Poles said this, but it's the coaches. As for Justin's, they're going to bring him back back to fundamentals. They're going to start from the ground floor and build him up in a position to make him succeed. I never heard Nagy ever say that. So I like it. They're going to bring him back. It's almost like, in their eyes, this is Justin's first year. And it might, in some ways, that's maybe what Justin should do. Of course, take the experience you learned last year. But starting back with the fundamentals and building and growing and learning and putting him into the position to succeed, that's what the Bears want to do. They want him to learn, and they want him to build on that. And then what they're going to do is they're going to watch what he struggles with. And when they know what he struggles with, they're going to work on that and make it better. So they're going to find all the good and bad, and they're going to work on it. They're going to study film and study him. And one of them is, what I'm going to say, is that damn fumbling problem he's got. It's huge. So, and making decisions a little bit better. But they're going to work on all that. So I really liked it. He's like, we want to build Justin to be the success everybody believes he can be. And then build around him to make a complete team. And they were asked, do you feel that this is a rebuild or a semi? And they're like, no, it's not a total rebuild by any chance. It means there's talent on this team. But we still have to get some other players to make it a complete team and a successful team and change the culture. And that's what they plan on doing. So I really like it. One thing, though, so that's my take on these guys. I'm sure you're all going to read it. I'm sure some of you have seen it, so you can, make your own decisions. But I am being very optimistic, although I'm always optimistic about the Bears. But I really have a really good feeling we might have turned the corner. And it's going to take some time. But if we have a good free agency and draft, especially free agency, that's almost more important right now to me because we only have 5 picks. And we only get second through probably the 7th round, and that's it. So we'll see what happens. So they got a lot of work to do. Ryan and Matt, go to town, all right? One little takeaway from the press conference, which I thought was so freaking funny. So at the end, George McCaskey gets up there, and they asked him a few questions. Not a lot. Although one thing, before I tell you the funny thing is, one of the reporters asked Matt Eberflus how many years he has on his contract, and he said, we are not disclosing that. I don't think I've ever heard that. And he said, we're Ryan and I are keeping that to ourselves. And so then when George got up there, somebody asked him the same question. Why are you not telling us how long they have on their contracts? And George said, because they asked us not to. Interesting, isn't it? I wonder why. It makes me wonder what could they have possibly. All they wanted to know how many years. They didn't ask them the money. They said the years. I've always thought that they had to be disclosed that, but I guess not. So, they did ask him too if they had talked to Jim Harbaugh. And he said, because they said, you interviewed 11 candidates for, or was it 13? It was 13 candidates for general manager and 11 for head coach. And they said, but it wasn't, one of them was not Jim Harbaugh. And they said, we did have a conversation with Jim, and it didn't go any farther than that. So that's that. So anyways, to the funny part of George McCaskey, which, again, we are pen pals. As you see, I've got 3 letters up there from him that he wrote me after I wrote him. Nice man. But a little slow on the catching on to the joke. So one of the reporters, um, it was his turn to ask George a question, and he said to him, "Okay, George, here we go with Matt and Ryan. So what do you think about that?" And everybody in the room started laughing. And then he just looked at them, and then he's like, oh yeah, I get it. Because as you all know, Matt Nagy was our last coach, and Ryan Pace was our last GM. Little weirdness to that we're back to with a Matt and a Ryan. But I thought it was so funny because he just kind of looked at them like, huh? And he did not get it. So I'm like, George, come on, man. You got to be a little quicker on the uptake than that, right? So that's it. Now, did anybody watch those games yesterday? They were freaking awesome. I mean, that's playoff football. And I'm watching this going, that's what I want the Bears to look like again. They've looked like that before. It's been a while, but they have looked like that before. So I'm like, you know what? Let's get these Bears back to what they used to be, right? And those games were fantastic. I did pick it. I picked Cincinnati, and the Rams to win, and right on, Lynn. Now, if I could only win money, I live in Vegas. You think I could do it, but I can't. But it's going to be a really good Super Bowl this year, I believe. Rams and Cincinnati's in 2 weeks from yesterday, so that should be awesome. I'm looking forward to that, but I'm already starting to get into my football depression because it's almost over. And in my case, it is. I mean, not my case. All of our cases, it is because there's only one game left. And my team ain't going, so there's not a lot of hoopla around it. So we're just waiting for 2 weeks from yesterday. And then I'm in a full-blown football depression. So I'll be calling my psychiatrist in February. So anyways, and you know what? I want to say it has been another good season. The viewers were down. I don't really care. If I get 10 people listen on a show, I'm happy, and I did better than that. But you know what? I just like talking to you guys and doing the show. It keeps me going. It keeps me active. When you get to be my age, you got to keep the mind working. Otherwise, it'll just get too jelloed and pickled. But I've loved doing it. If you just joined us this year, I've seen some people join this month. You might want to go back. I did a show last year, and I did one all this year, and told some funny stories last year, which I'm going to get back to that next year, incorporating some of the funny stories of going to games and this and that. But I'm a big Bears lover. I've been watching them since 1975. I'm 63, so you do the math. But I love it. And I just want to thank you all for watching me. It's been a lot of fun. Sometimes I mess up names, but that's what kind of makes it funny. And I try to laugh at myself, and I try to make you laugh. Not only do I want to talk about the Bears, who I love, love, love. I'm one of those fans, and no matter what, I'm a Bears fan. And if I can make you laugh along the way, perfect. Because I do say to everyone, one of my downfalls is, I'm a smart lady, a little short. I'm funny. I love to laugh. My only problem is I look just like my father. So it's my father's face on a woman's body. It's just not fair, man. But, so hey, if you know anybody that, wants to hang around with a 63-year-old lady who drinks a beer here and there and loves football and will watches baseball, is a baseball fan, but unfortunately, I'm a Sox fan. So, tell them where I'm in, I'm in Vegas, baby. Just look me up. But again, thank you for watching. I will be back in March, middle of March. Take a look for me. And then at the beginning of May, after the draft, so I'll do the what's going on with free agency, the draft, and then I'll sign. I will be off until August when they start the camp and start playing preseason games. So, as always, I just love you all. I appreciate anybody who watches me. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you learn a little something. I try to give you the truth, and then I've give you my opinions as well. And it's been fun. Great viewers. I have some very loyal ones, and I like it. And what I like about my show is I don't have bullies. We had one earlier in the season, and I threw him off. I told him he was not welcome. I mean, you don't always have to agree with me, but some of the things this guy said, he was putting down one of my viewers, and I'm like, yeah, we don't do that on this show because I don't like bullies. That's another thing we got to do. So, and I always end my show like, let's stop bullies, let's stop hate, start caring for each other, help somebody out, smile at people when you walk by them. There's nothing better than smiling at somebody, especially if they, aren't, and then they smile back and you can see it made a difference because you never know what's going on behind closed doors in somebody's life. Not everybody's having a great life, okay? And in it, we need to love one each other. And if we had more of that, this world would be a lot better. And these last few years have been very difficult on a lot of people. And I won't lie, it's a struggle. People who have depression issues or anxiety. This has been a tough couple years, and I know all about that. So, on that note, I love you guys. I love the Bears. Everyone keep positive. There's no point in being negative at this point, right? Let's be positive. And I just have a feeling, I told you 2022 is going to be a good year for our Chicago Bears. As long as we can win again and start to build the culture the way we want, then we're going to go in the right direction. And we got to see if Justin Fields is the real deal. So we soon will see. So thank you. I love you guys. See you in March. And as always, keep on rocking and rolling from Vegas, baby. Bye-bye.